This ordinary guy is a psychiatric patient who gets rid of dangerous people during the day, but at night he becomes a terrifying killer demon in the martial arts world, single-handedly storming Mount Rua and wiping out the entire sect in one night, leaving the rescue team to find only a hellish scene of carnage, proving that only a true demon could turn Mount Rua into a sea of blood. Suddenly, a trembling shape showed up far away, babbling without stopping, which meant everything was finally done. The Mount Rua sect is gone, completely wiped out, and everyone knew exactly who he was the moment they saw him. Isn't that the desperate swordmaster of the Mexra flower from the Mount Rua sect, only for a sudden flash of a blade to appear behind him and slice him in half, leaving a bloody crowd roaring for the enemy to show himself as a man steps forward holding the severed head of their leader, while the four great sects gather to surround Don Bansu and demand justice for the dead. As he watched the scene, he smiled. Just as I expected, this world is truly fascinating. Don Bansu opened his eyes and found himself already back home. That game was way too intense, and facing so many experts alone was just too much even for me. It turned out to be a new virtual reality game with combat so realistic it terrified players and drew crowds. But as Don Bansu replayed the fight in his mind, an urgent news report about the missing Dion Company president interrupted the show, and a faint cry for help from the room behind him made him grab the nearby iron hammer and slowly walk toward the scene to find the middle-aged man kneeling and begging for mercy. He used to hurt and kill innocent women, so Don Bansu hunted down anyone just like him and wouldn't stop even when the fat man begged, simply slamming his head onto the cutting board. How many times have you performed that pitiful begging routine? Don't you get tired of this yet? Just as the hammer was about to drop, the fat guy, driven by pure survival instinct, smashed his head into Don Bansu's stomach, causing the man to drop his weapon and fly backwards several meters. Seizing the chance, the fat guy violently ripped the plastic handcuffs off his arms and roared, "You bastard! I'm gonna make you die without even a place to be buried." And right after that, he swung the hammer at Bansu, who just smirked and dodged to the side while the fat guy started shaking in fear, but it was already too late. Bansu hammered the fat guy so hard in the gut that it felt like his eyes were gonna burst. Yet the fighter kept going with a wild kick that sent his opponent flying, leaving him terrified but still crawling toward the light on pure instinct. He thought light meant hope, but when he peeked past it, he saw nothing but a line of dried-out corpses that made him realize just how terrible hell really was. Most people are gentle like herbivores, but hidden among them lurk some fierce carnivorous beasts. They hunt and eat the weak, but I'm the hunter who takes down those fierce beasts. And as Bansu marched forward, the fat man's fear reached its limit just as the door crashed open and a swarm of cops stormed in. Don Bansu had no time to run, as enemies surrounded him on every side with no escape left. I stepped forward and grabbed Don Bansu by the arm, shouting that I am now putting him under arrest for kidnapping, holding someone against their will, and murder. Bansu stared in shock, wondering just how you had stumbled upon this hidden spot. Suddenly, not a single voice replied, and the guns started to roar without a word. "Kid, freeze, because the very next bullet is going to find you." Watching that scene, Bansu felt like he had been pulled right back into the world of the game. That feeling was amazing, but you know this guy killed 6 women, tortured them to death, and even recorded it all for fun, so the bodies behind me are the same, and they're all killers, just animals, don't you think? I'm just a hunter looking for animals, and even though you told me everything, the cop in front of you didn't get angry. He just calmly lit a cigarette and said that even if what you said is true, you're still nothing more than an illegal psychopathic killer, which made Don Bansu burst out laughing. Just as he expected, arguing with these foolish people was pointless as he raised his heavy iron hammer to smash down. He never regretted his actions and hoped that in another life he could tear those animals apart just like in that great martial movie, while flashes of the past played like a non-stop show as Don Bansu's final moments passed, until he opened his eyes to find he was still alive. "Not bad, kid. You've got some tough skin since you didn't die after getting beaten up." But when the man saw Don Bansu's dead, empty eyes, his mind was flooded with such fierce anger that he roared, "Damn kid, do you even realize how much effort it took to drag you off the streets? Just hold still, because tomorrow you're gonna meet your end for sure." Don Bansu's anger burst into a flame the moment he got hit for no reason at all. He stared at the man's back, snatched up a rock to charge, but the instant he rose, his bones shattered and he crashed down hard. When Bansu saw those thin arms, he knew something was terribly wrong, so he quickly opened the clothes to confirm it. That body wasn't his, so he peeked out the door to see where he was, only to be stunned by a sight so familiar that it was the martial world he'd been dreaming about. Bansu stared in shock, unable to believe his dream had suddenly become reality. Welcome, player Don Bansu, to Miran Online, a harsh world ruled by the powerful, where you now inhabit the body of Sawsum, whose family was destroyed by a terrible natural disaster. Stranded all by himself, he survived just like a tiny bug. To eat, he became the Dan family's lowest servant so anyone could humiliate him, which happened instantly when Big Ass Silence saw him before she could finish saying she hadn't cleaned the stable yet. "I'm not fighting back. so don't forget your spot. You are only an orphan picked up by the Dan family. So don't think you're special just because they were nice to you once. In the next instant, Don Hong dragged Don Bansu off to the blacksmith shop while Amel sprinted to the inn to party, only for the weary innkeeper to glance at their small group and whisper in panic, "Boss, we can't carry all that heavy gear. Just Sawom is enough for this job. Sawom is as tough as a racehorse who can carry anything, so stop standing there and start moving with those weapons." After speaking his piece, he spun around and headed for the inn to enjoy himself, leaving the sorry owner with no choice but to watch helplessly. In a cruel world where the strong eat the weak, people must fight like insects, crawling through pain and thorns no matter how many times they fall. But fate loves to twist things just when you think you're safe. So even after a long day's work, he walked home like a broken doll feeling nothing until Sawom accidentally bumped into him, only for the apology to be met with a hard punch. When did I start making mistakes? Was it when I knocked on the Henry family's gate just to stay alive? Or was it when the typhoon swept my family away and left me as the only one left? Perhaps it all began the very second I was born in a place just like that. Don Bansu had such a long dream that when he woke up, he knew those memories belonged to the old person who used to live in his body. In other words, the real Sawsum was long gone, leaving Bansu to wake up in this body, only to catch a strange glimpse of the MERM system window from the corner of his eye. I should just kill him right now, but the risk is way too high, and if they find out my head is on the line, it'll be over. Furious, ML kicked the stable door and casually threw the day's food in front of Bansu before walking away without even looking back. It had already been 2 weeks since Don Bansu arrived in that strange place where the people used Chinese characters and martial arts that felt like something out of a movie, proving it wasn't Earth. People zipped through the air so fast that normal eyes couldn't catch them, proving that legendary martial arts were truly real there. It felt just like playing MERM online in real life, complete with a system window popping up. A game-style status bar floated right in front of Bansu's eyes, invisible to everyone else. But after watching for days, he realized this wasn't a game world. It was real. As everyone around him possessed their own mind, Bansu wondered if he was truly human or just a game piece. While Don walked through the door to tell him about a little brother who was almost beaten to death by a fool and only got released today. "I wasted all this time just thinking about you." But when Bansu saw who it was, he slowly rose to his feet. He wolfed down all the food for the day in one gulp, "You bastard." When he heard the threat to die, Bansu just stared coldly, then smashed the bowl in his hand and plunged a sharp piece straight into Don's neck. Blood sprayed everywhere as Don made weird noises, proving the person I knew was long gone. So as he spoke, Bansu lifted the shard and stabbed hard, losing his mind with a mix of tearing flesh and laughter that turned the whole world into a red storm. "I'm certain of just one thing. This world is real. It plays out like a game where the powerful rule and the weak suffer. So now I can finally stop hiding who I truly am. I'll stay right here hunting until I'm full, taking on tougher beasts with higher ranks along the way. Soon this land will be a hunter's dream." And here Bansu made his first kill as he stepped into this new world, even though the poor thing he took down wasn't worth much. But there was one thing he had to check. The numbers on the screen didn't match what he remembered from before. The orderly grid of items in Muram Online had twisted into a chaotic mess where he could actually reach out and pass straight through the slots. The inside looked like a huge room at least hundreds of square meters wide, and if the system works like in the game, then just by touching an item with my hand while thinking about it, Don Guok's body instantly turned into data and got sucked right into that huge space. Bansu stared in stunned disbelief at the huge figure fitting perfectly inside, realized how incredibly useful this trick was, and immediately thought, if it can hold a living thing, I have to try it when I get a chance. So a few days later, with his wounds mostly healed, he started acting mute to keep people from getting suspicious. While doing his usual grueling work, he secretly watched the world. But suddenly ML slapped Bansu from behind and shouted, "You brat! I heard you go mute to hide yourself." Bansu could only give a silly grin and try to mumble words that nobody could understand. "You silent brat! Stop slacking off here and take that horse out for a walk." Don Bansu gave a simple bow to let everyone know he understood. ML cursed in anger, wondering how he could deal with such a clueless person who couldn't even speak. But then the scene shifted to Bansu riding a fine horse down the street, only to be suddenly ambushed by a group of troublemakers throwing stones at him, one of which hit his head and made blood pour through his hair. The loud fool Sawsum has now gone quiet and silent. Just as the tiny monsters were about to keep teasing him, Bansu's face turned dark and a scary pressure spread from him. But the chubby boy kept rubbing his eyes thinking he was imagining it, only to see that Bansu still looked like his usual silly self when he looked again. Bansu muttered some nonsense and turned to go, but the chubby boy thought Bansu had given up, so he grew smug and kept mocking him as he walked away. Som, who can't speak and struggles to do anything on his own, was clearly lost. But then the scene changed and ML reached the door of the weapon room. He was still complaining that they made him sort the weapons alone, wondering where Dongguok had been these past 2 days right before Bansu stepped out of the armory. Amel was stunned to find the weapons in the storeroom perfectly arranged, and his anger boiled over as he screamed, "You brat! You ruined all my work!" Bansu bowed and fawned repeatedly, amazed that this guy got smarter after dying. But when Amel opened the small pouch Bansu offered as a tribute, he froze to find it full of copper coins and joked that Bansu finally understood the rules before leaving with the money to go have fun with a little vixen. While Bansu's foolish smile faded into cold eyes, vowing that his laughter would end soon, he quickly rushed toward the Phoenix Vixen with great excitement. Master Mel asked why he had come, and the boss replied that he was about to call for and Young, the top courtesan he usually picked, but Mel revealed he wanted her tonight, which made the owner's face drop until he saw the coins in Mel's hand and immediately led him into a private room where a stunning beauty soon arrived. Just as anyone would expect from a top-tier courtesan, she was over 100 times prettier than and young, yet while everyone laughed and had fun, Emil didn't know that a blood-red eye was staring right at them from the dark gap behind the wooden boards at his back. Exactly, and the crazy hero was the one who owned that eye. Time slipped back a bit, so the owner could watch Ma enter the Phoenix Vixen. Then he glanced at his pouch of copper coins, his smile widening in satisfaction, until suddenly Bansu walked in behind him. "What are you doing here? Do you know what kind of place this is if you don't get out right now?" But before the owner could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the money pouch Bansu handed over. He struggled to get the words, "Miss Any" out. But when the owner opened the pouch and saw it overflowing with copper coins, his eyes went wide with shock. He instantly wore a friendly grin, told the man to head upstairs to the second floor where Ong would be waiting, and then followed him up to the second floor of the Phoenix Vixen right away. Bansu watched everything from his room next door, and as soon as Emil finished his passionate moment, Bansu quietly moved over, wrapped a bandage around Emil's neck, pulled tight, and strangled him to death. "Damn it, who is this bastard?" Emil struggled frantically against Bansu's tight hold, but at the last second, he used all his strength to leap up, slam Bansu to the ground with his huge body, and yell, "So what if you do that?" As long as Bansu's grip held, there was no way out, for tonight meant only one of them would live. How amazing it is to watch a life slowly fade away right before my eyes. Bansu fought until his last breath before finally squeezing his life out of him. His eyes drifted to the sleeping woman beside them, and as he leaned in for a closer look, he quickly realized she was a total vegetarian. Just as she stayed asleep, Bansu stepped back through the wooden board he created by using his special inventory system, realizing that mastering these secret ways to store things was key for future hunts. And now that killing Mac had boosted his experience points and made this place feel exactly like a game where he could grow stronger by defeating enemies, creating a perfect cycle where every level up made hunting easier and his power rise even faster, proving he could keep getting stronger forever. And finally, the owner met Miss and Young outside the door and offered his apologies. "I got held up by something just now, so stop dawdling. The guest you paid for is still waiting inside. So hurry over and serve him well even if he can't speak, especially since Mel and Chosen have been in there so long without coming out. They weren't actually meant to stay up all night," and the owner tapped impatiently on ML's door, telling Brother Mac to let Chosen out. After a long wait with no sound, the owner was ready to shout in anger until a terrified scream from Chosen made him rush inside only to find the boy huddled under a quilt so scared that the owner fainted right there. He never could have guessed that the bold and brash Mackle, who seemed so full of life just moments before, would end his life hanging in the very inn where he once strutted around. From that day forward, a silent killer began creeping through the kingdom, leading people quietly to their deaths. For ages, the rich soil and linked lakes made trade thrive, but soon money attracted bandits, forcing powerful clans like the Namong and Danri to rise in and way to keep the peace. The Danri family, though not one of the 5 great houses, was still a top-tier noble power in the Central Plains known for their elite cross Heavenly Sword Legion and fearsome Black Crow Squad. But lately, the Black Crow Squad has stumbled into a very tricky situation. Another deadly wave is sweeping through, with over 100 people taking their own lives this month alone. A shocking jump from the usual 1 or 2 a year. Chief Gidio suddenly had a thought and rushed to ask who the first suicide victim was. Upon hearing it was Mac of the Danri family, who died while listening to music at the Phoenix Vixen, he immediately led his men to the scene, wondering how a killer would get in if this suicide plague was actually murder. After checking every way in and out, Gidio realized the only option was the wall, but since the roof would have to be lifted to remove the boards without leaving a mark, it seemed like Mel might have taken his own life, leaving the question of who was in the next room to haunt him. "Reporting to you, sir." That person showed up just as ML did, and he was Sawsum of the Danri family while Bansu was still riding his horse through the streets with a nearly full experience bar from all the people he'd killed. And even though he'd found that stronger targets gave more experience, he was still no match for these martial artists. So just as he thought about his next victim, a voice shouted, "Isn't this awesome? Haven't seen you in a few days. How come you look so handsome?" as a group of street thugs grinned at him from an alley entrance and asked why he wouldn't come over to properly greet his big brothers. And Bonsu couldn't believe that even the stupid Sawsum belonged to the Danri family. Yet here he was still being bullied by trash like this. Noticing Bonsu didn't react, the gang leader grabbed him by the hair and dragged him into an alley, while Bonsu secretly figured out that killing them all was too risky and decided to wait for a better chance instead. Just as a thug swung his fist at Bonsu, a voice from the shadows shouted, "That's enough! Don't start anything here," instantly stopping the fight. "Didn't I tell you to invite him over?" When the thug saw who had arrived, he began trembling in fear, asking, "Brother Django, why did you come in person?" But Django ignored him completely and walked straight toward the fine horse behind Banu. "The leader of our Black Snake Guild loves horses so much that I want to give him this one." But Bonsu suddenly felt a deadly urge to kill coming from the man. From the start, the man meant to kill and steal the horse, but he picked the wrong victim. When Bonsu stayed still, Django's face froze, and before he could even finish his threat, Bonsu dropped his axe, dared him to strike, and then punched him in the head while pulling a dagger from thin air that instantly pierced Django's neck, causing a blinding light to explode from Bonsu's body and level him up to 2 while leaving all the onlookers blinded. This is definitely evil sorcery. That damned bastard actually knows this kind of sinister witchcraft. But when he barely managed to make out the scene inside the light, cold sweat instantly poured down his body as a terrifying shadow emerged from the abyss like a devil, making the thugs turn and run because he had no idea what he had just seen. But he knew one truth. If he didn't run, he would die. As long as he kept sprinting toward the patch of sunlight ahead, he'd live. But in the next heartbeat, a man's calf was brutally sliced off, sending him crashing hard to the ground. "Not bad, you woke up fast." But when the bald man stirred, Bonsu crept up and pressed a dagger right against his neck. With death hanging over him, a terrified bald man spilled every secret, revealing that Django was a henchman for the Black Snake Guild, the gang that ruled Phoenix's back alleys and sent him to kill and steal a horse under the orders of their leader, Bang Payam, while the speaker begged for his life as just a lowly messenger. When the bald man heard he might live for knowing all about the Black Snake Guild, hope suddenly filled his eyes, but it wasn't enough to save him from death. Bonsu gave him a gentle tap with his hand, and the bald man instantly turned into a shower of glowing dust, vanishing into a secret pocket before the alley fell back into quiet silence, leaving Bonsu to sort through the secrets he had just found. These gangsters who stand right between martial artists and normal folks are the perfect targets for me to get stronger, and I didn't think I'd find them so fast, but now that I leveled up, every single cut on my body has vanished. Perhaps even a damaged heart or brain can heal, much like how a game resets when you lose. There's a flashy glow that shows up when you gain a level, but it could also draw real trouble right to you. He must hide his flaw and look like an ordinary person, because only then can he easily trap his prey. I only become the true master of the hunt when I blend so perfectly into the crowd that no one can tell me apart from them. So from now on, my power grows only when a hunt is done or right where the prey stands. Relying just on pretending to be mute isn't enough anymore. I have to get stronger fast before anyone finds me. Thinking this over, Bonsu guided the horse out of the dark alley, slowly blended into the crowd, and soon his figure disappeared into the sea of people. After stepping back into the stable, a sudden error message popped up, forcing Bonsu to pause and wonder if the reason lay within himself, causing the mysterious question marks on his stats to finally reveal their progress bars, which made him immediately curious enough to open the skill panel. In the next moment, a list of new skills, Slustrust, Guard, Throw, and the mysterious Spirit Eye, flooded his mind, but before he could understand the last one, a warning flashed. A deadly foe over 10 levels stronger was closing in from within 20 meters, and that shrinking distance meant the threat was definitely someone from inside his own family, moving too slowly to be an intruder but fast enough to be terrifying. Given how much I paid just to reach level 2, the jump to level 10 must be insane, meaning I'd probably have to kill thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of ordinary people just to get there. A fighter that strong was a rare sight, even for the Danri family, but in the next heartbeat, the door swung open and the head of the Black Crow squad marched in with his team. Bonsu's face instantly dropped into a look of shock. He knew he couldn't hide even the tiniest mistake, because this man was far too sharp to be tricked. "You have to be Sawom, don't you? Tell me, was it you who put Mac out of his misery?" Hearing this, Bonsu froze in terror, babbling and waving his arms wildly to deny any wrongdoings. But Gadito wasn't done and slammed his palm into Banu's chest, flooding his body with a violent surge of Tricky. Bonsu felt a wild, crashing force surge through him before funneling into a dark spot that swallowed every bit of power like a bottomless hole. Ged checked the air for a moment, sighed softly, and walked away, leaving only a pair of cold eyes watching from the dark as we argued about why he wasn't questioned further. But since my special test showed no martial arts traces in him at all, he must just be an ordinary person. Could so many people have actually taken their own lives? And if it was truly a deadly plague, why did it just disappear without a single sound? In its place, a fresh and bloody storm rolled across all of Phoenix. A nameless wanderer stepped out of nowhere into the underworld and started settling scores with the gangs one by one. Even the mighty White Tiger Gang and Scarlet Wolf sect were wiped clean, so keep your voice down, because now the Black Snake Guild is the only one left, and if they hear you, things will end badly. There is nothing to fear because sooner or later, our nameless hero will face them all anyway. Bonsu quietly slipped away from the vixen and headed for the Black Snake Guild, which was already in a panic because the nameless hero had been attacking them again and again. I heard that guy just wiped out 3 gangs, leaving only the Black Snake Guild standing, and he told everyone to stop slacking and stay sharp. But the very next second, the man beside him was beheaded on the spot. After keeping your companion company, Bansu slowly pushed open the gates of the Black Snake Guild and didn't even pause to take a breath before walking straight inside. Bansu was still guessing where everyone had hidden when suddenly a storm of arrows came crashing down from the sky. Bansu leaped back just in time to dodge the arrows, then looked up to see a flood of black-clad Snake Guild members pouring out from under the city wall. They had already set a trap and were just waiting for Bansu to walk right into it, but when the leader shouted, "You nameless rat, dare you come cause trouble in the Black Snake Guild?" Facing that pack of ferocious thugs, Bansu did only one thing. He stepped into his sword-drawing stance and shouted, "Get him!" As soon as someone shouted to kill the arrogant bastard, everyone grabbed their weapons and charged in, with some even jumping into the air to attack Bansu from all sides. But Bansu gripped his sword tightly, unleashed a powerful energy, and sliced all the charging attackers in half with a flash of light, leaving the remaining thugs stunned and trapped when they realized running was too late. Bansu's blade moved faster than the wind, cutting down thugs one by one until a furious elite in the distance charged forward with a spear, only to find Bansu casually grab the man beside him, twist his arm, and hurl him into the air to slam him into the attacker just as the blade swung down. With a single thrust, the 2 men were pinned together in their tracks, and even as the elite warrior died, he couldn't believe he fell to someone as wretched as Bansu. Just as that scarred man appeared behind Bansu and swung his blade, he spat, "Brat, go to hell." Bansu tried to draw his sword to fight back, but the thug from before grabbed his blade right away. So at that deadly moment, Bansu used his secret space to flash a sword light from behind and sliced the scar-faced man's head in half, which was impossible since the man didn't even turn his head. Bansu felt a secret wave of relief that he had a backup plan, only for a sudden dagger to plunge into his gut and blast him flying across the room. "I finally found your weak spot, realizing you aren't a fearless monster, but just a person who bleeds like the rest of us. As long as you're human, we can kill you," Bansu said as he grabbed the broken blade sticking out of his belly and yanked it free with his bare hands. Then he lifted his bamboo hat to clear his vision, grinned with pure joy at the beautiful world around him, and charged back into the crowd while a group of men watched the fight coldly from the shadows of a nearby hut. "What's happening? The screams have almost stopped, and I can't believe he really killed everyone alone when we usually just take some money and move a few people around, especially since there are plenty of worse criminals out there. But why does he pick us to bully just because we're easy targets when we have to get him to stay right here? We've got to stop him from reaching the back door, because the guild leader is waiting inside the manor." Suddenly, a stranger showed up at the tower's gate, which made the man inside shout for his hidden archers to fire a hail of arrows at the dark figure, only for the man himself to pop his head out to check on the kill, just to be instantly cut off by the archer behind him and then watch everyone else in the hut get beheaded one by one like a spreading plague, leaving him so scared and confused that he couldn't believe how all his men had vanished in a split second with no reason at all. "Come out, nameless hero. I know you're hiding in there. What do you want? And why are you trying to wipe us all out? You're nothing but a devil." Before he could finish, his head flew off, and all that remained was the leader of the Black Snake Guild, Bang Payam, who stood alone amidst the corpses as Bansu finally reached the brightly lit path. Bansu started by killing Django in a fight with the White Tiger Gang, but since that victory didn't make him strong enough to face real threats, he began using sneaky tricks like drawing enemies in, attacking from behind, and burning their camps down so they had no way to escape, eventually wiping out more than half of the gang. As the common folk named him the Nameless Hero, his new mask made it easier to wipe out gangs, and just as Bansu took down the White Tiger leader, he hit level 5, unlocking the lightness skill and the 3 forces sword art. Finally finding the courage to face the gangs directly, he left Phoenix City with only the Black Snake Guild standing, where an old man named Bang Payam waited quietly at the manor's entrance as its leader. A bolt of lightning crashed down just as Bansu reached the spot, leaving you as the nameless hero who stays silent when faced with Bang Payam's question because you refuse to waste words on an old man. "Why wrap yourself so tightly? Do you fear I'll know who you are? Because I'm not a hero but a madman who wants to kill, and that title is just a name people made up." The moment they heard it, Bang Payam threw his head back and roared with laughter, realizing that the legendary hero they all revere is nothing but a murderer, and that truth was simply too delicious to ignore. It felt like even dying right now wouldn't be a regret, So the old man challenged the killer to prove his strength, raising his sword to meet Bansu's deadly presence, only to find himself losing after their intense clash of power. Bang PM found a gap in his guard and lunged his sword right at Bansu's arm. Bansu thought the space between them was too far to matter, but the sword's light cut across him and instantly carved a deep, bloody wound through his arm. Blood splattered all over the spot. Bansu quickly pulled back to create more space, proving my fear right that your body is in terrible shape right now. That was your biggest mistake, daring to fight me while already hurt, because today I'll show you the cost of arrogance as Bang PM attacks like a madman, hitting Bansu's wounds over and over until my own injuries get worse, forcing me to change tactics right now. Bansu kept fighting to find a way to stop the attack, but Bang PM struck again, ready to end it all. Bansu quickly used the Three Forces sword art to block a head-on strike, but the next moment his enemy's weapon snapped apart and wrapped around his arm like a venomous snake, cutting off his left hand instantly. Bansu suddenly switched on his lightness skill and kicked Bang PM hard in the stomach, sending him flying straight into the wall next to them. Bansu thought he'd finally caught his breath when the ground erupted with endless black serpent phantoms, leaving him staring in total disbelief. In the next breath, a massive serpent made of empty space stretched out in front of him. Bang PM spoke softly, telling you that your fighting style feels less like a warrior's and more like a hunter's assassin. So he warned you to remember that hiding your trump cards keeps a martial artist alive, meaning that since he now holds more hidden tricks than you are destined to lose as he swung the giant serpent phantom in his hand. With nowhere left to run, you must finally stop this nameless killer. And as the savage serpent ghost hangs in the air like a giant beast staring down its helpless prey, you have no choice but to end it all. The moment it snapped its jaws and leaped forward, Bansu slammed his foot down with all his might, kicking up a cloud of dust that instantly hit him, but the old man shouted through the haze, "You think this dust can blind me and save you?" And right then, a bright light began to glow inside the swirling dust. Seeing the light, Bang PM charged straight at its source with everything he had. Finally caught you, but the moment he saw what he'd struck, his eyes went wide because it was actually the dead body of a Black Snake Guild member. Damn it, that brat can even fake his looks to hide where his real body is. But while Bansu leaps high, the Three Forces sword art slashes down like a yellow dragon to stab Bang PM in the heart, only for him to catch the blade with his bare palm and send it skidding off at the last second, proving once again that an old veteran can make that split-second call. Bang PM had lost his mind and swung his sharp weapon around to strike Bansu right in the face. Bansu tried to pull back, but the other person held onto his sword tight and wouldn't let him move. With no other option, he instantly called forth his system space, causing a line of corpses to materialize before Bang PM and send him slashing wildly in panic. In the time it took to draw a few breaths, he sliced all those strange things into pieces, and when the silence finally came back, Bang PM barely held back the wild feelings surging inside him. He quickly scanned the empty area, screaming for Bansu to show himself, only to be hit by an arrow as he tried to block it, while another one narrowly missed his face. Only then did Bang PM realize he was just a lamb waiting to be eaten, and as a black shadow flashed past him, he lost his mind and swung his snake whip wildly without a second thought. "I finally got you." But when he saw the shadow clearly, he realized it was just a severed arm, and in the next instant, Bang Pa felt a wave of coldness surge up behind him, a grim pressure stabbing into his spine. Right then, a sharp blade stabbed straight into his chest. Bang PM never thought he would lose everything, including his life and every gang in Phoenix, but as he lay dying, he begged the killer to finally tell him why they did it, wondering if there even had to be a reason at all. From the days when we were wild animals to the time we built our cities, humans have never stopped killing each other. Even after arriving in this wild world of martials, the strong still rule while the weak are eaten alive. This time, I'm the one holding all the power. The gangs in Phoenix have finally been wiped out. Now it was time to move into the next stage, hunting in the tough and dangerous lands where a mighty sect stood deep within the distant mountains. Inside the Grand Hall, a solemn voice called for action as the 2-year countdown to the war began, and just as Cloud had received his orders, a loyal follower stepped forward to start the first scheme, while elsewhere, news of the gang's destruction spread through Phoenix even as Bansu calmly walked his horse through the streets. Even though the nameless hero just wiped out the entire Black Snake gang in one sweep and saved us from being trampled by scum who ignored everyone else, the man in green still felt a twinge of doubt about whether such ruthless slaughter was truly right. The man jumped onto the street with a shout of praise for the nameless hero, and the others quickly joined in, cheering loudly that the Black Snake gang finally got what they deserved. In a flash, the regular folks caught the fire of the moment and flooded the streets with endless waves of cheering, while Bansu walked calmly through them all with cold eyes. It's about time I stepped up to lead. The hours flew by until the sun finally set. Bansu guided the sleek horse back to the front of the stable. Suddenly, a warning flashed on the system that an enemy 10 levels stronger than me had appeared just 20 meters away, triggering my spirit eye to activate instantly. I realized a powerful expert was hiding in the stable, so I acted like I didn't see anything and pushed the door open, only to find Gedito from the Black Crow Squad and the legendary Danri Kaen Wu of the Danri family inside. I didn't know why they were there, but I was sure this man was someone I couldn't afford to upset right now. Danri Kaen Wu gently stroked the fine horse's coat, knowing it was time to say goodbye. Bansu was stunned to see Danri Kaen Wu's feet floating in the air and couldn't believe that such a strange power called Qinggong could really exist. Danri Kaen Wu continued, "On the 15th of next month, the second daughter of the Namong family head is getting married. So you plan to give your favorite horse as a wedding gift?" "Yes, as long as I can send one of my children to join the Namong family. Even if I have to go further than this, I am willing. Whether I marry off a daughter or send a son there as a disciple, two pieces of wood cross a river more easily than one, do they not? But the Namong family may not accept either. I know this is why I called you here. No matter what means you use, this matter must be accomplished." As the words left his mouth, a heavy weight pressed down on Gideo's shoulders, sealing his fate as he was left with no choice but to grit his teeth and agree, while Danri Kaen Wu pointed to kneeling Bansu and ordered him to take charge of the horse for the journey ahead without a single error. He said that, turned around, and walked away. Time flew, and by morning, Bansu was already at the meeting spot waiting with his true star for the trip, Danri Kaen Wu's beloved horse. Bansu's mind was fixed on growing stronger, dreaming of real martial arts instead of the fake moves the system gave him, because trying to copy family members or gang fighters had only taught him empty imitations, and while stealing a secret manual was his worst idea, finding a true master was the only real hope, even though becoming a disciple was hard and this 18-year-old body felt too old to start learning. This time, though, it was a real chance, because the Namong family was one of the 5 powerful clans of the Central Plains where he might finally learn martial arts, and even better prey was waiting for him there. Soon after, Ged brought his men and finished getting everyone together, but his man said the young master and lady were still coming, and Danri, who hated traveling with servants, would likely catch up on his own. As Danri was likely still hiding somewhere on Phoenix Street, Ged immediately swung onto his horse, galloped toward the street, and dragged his helplessly following group to an inn where a loud crash echoed from inside, proving yet again that this guy is a real headache. Danri Gong, the firstborn of Danri Kaen Wu, was a brilliant martial artist with a heart full of trouble, spending his days chasing wine and lust while his bad name spread far and wide. Based on the chaos outside, he was likely having another wild fight inside. Before Gideo could even blink, a blast threw Danri Gong, the young master of the Danri family, right through the inner wall, and the sight of him flying through the air left Gideo completely stunned. Danri Gong crashed to the ground, screaming insults at the inn before a sudden flash of lightning cut his angry words short. Gideo couldn't believe he was watching his family's young master get beaten right in front of him, while Bansu burned with excitement at the thought that the mysterious stranger before him was truly a master among masters and overwhelmingly powerful. Even that expert was crushed down onto Danri Gong's face by a terrifying weight. Danri Gong's face was crushed and twisted under the heavy foot. Guided flew into a rage on the spot, yelling at the old man to stop, but the old man just gave him a cold glance and asked what he thought he was, causing his power to explode with a boom. Gideo felt the pressure hit hard and cold sweat broke out instantly. "So I say take your foot off him right now since he is a young master of the Danri family. If you don't move away this second, we'll have to act," and his guards have already stepped into battle stance. But Bansu knows even better that this unknown expert, who even the Black Crow chief doesn't recognize as being from here, is someone none of them could beat together. As long as the mighty lion ignores the ants, no one dies, but the old man looked confused about the Danri family and whether they could be eaten. So when his family was humiliated, Ged instantly exploded with rage and promised that anyone who insults them will not be spared. "Don't get mad. I really don't know if the Danri family is a meal to be eaten or just something to step on." Those words sparked a blaze of rage in Gideo, causing him to violently draw his long sword and order the Black Crow squad to immediately attack and rescue the young master, while the attendants behind him surged forward with raised blades. Yet the old man stood unmoving as a strand of green chi traced along his fingertips. With a flick of his wrist, he sent a fine silver needle screaming through the air, striking Gideo and every other brave man in the crowd right between the eyes, instantly freezing them where they stood. Even while lying on the ground, Gady still couldn't believe what was happening. That strike felt like a butterfly chasing a soul, delivered by the legendary Tang Wu, one of the 20 greatest masters in the Murim world. Among them stood 2 gods, 3 monsters, 5 peaks, and 10 grand masters. And the supreme leader of the Sichuan Tang family, the soul-chasing poison hand Tang Wu, was one of those 10 grand masters, so deadly that even a wandering soul who offended him could never escape his poisonous touch. As Bansu watched the Black Crow squad sprawled across the floor, his heart dropped and he realized that one foolish mistake could bring the entire Danri family to ruin. But just as panic set in, A young girl stepped out from the inn to tell her grandfather not to waste time arguing with rude outsiders. As Tang Wu saw his granddaughter, the killing intent inside him vanished instantly, and he broke into a smile. While Gio, struggling to speak from the ground, thanked the senior for showing mercy. Tang Wu flicked his finger, sending the silver needles from everyone's foreheads flying back into his hand. But as he turned to leave, he spotted Bansu waiting in the distance. Their eyes locking until Tang Wu paused and said, "Wait here a moment." After speaking, he strode straight to Bansu, and in the split second Bansu realized he was the target. He felt like prey locked onto by a hunter before Tang Wu suddenly appeared face to face with him. Bansu was stunned, wondering if the previous owner of this body knew this old man. Yet the stranger's very first question was just his name. Seeing Bansu still standing there blankly without answering, Tang Wu's face darkened as he demanded one last time, "What is your name?" But the boy just stared him down without speaking a single word, smelling still of his mother's milk. Tang Wu's rage boiled over just as Gady rushed forward to explain that the man was a silent horsekeeper. Tang Wu stopped dead in his tracks when he heard that. Then he locked eyes with Bansu with a stare so sharp it cut like a knife, making Bansu feel completely exposed. Tang Wu stared at him like he'd just found something precious. Bansu's heart leaped with hope, seeing this moment as his ticket to finally break free from being known as a horsekeeper. Tang Wu's eyes narrowed. He suddenly grabbed Bansu's arm. A rush of green energy flooded into him, and in the next second, he burst into laughter. Bansu stood frozen in confusion, but Tang Wu gave no answer, instead turning to Guido to confirm their destination at the Namong family before quietly revealing that Bansu was just a humble horsekeeper. Tang Wu spoke right to me, saying he wants to come along. That could work, but without him, no one can safely bring that wild horse to the Namong family. I see, so we'll travel together until we reach the Namong family, where this old man will take the boy away and, if needed, send a letter to your family head explaining everything. Hearing this, Gio wanted to weigh his words carefully, but when he locked eyes with Tang Wu's deadly stare, he instantly changed his mind. We plan to show both him and that special horse to the Namong family, but since Senior Tang Wu really likes him, we'll do whatever he wants instead. Tang Wu nodded with a smile and moved right up to them. Why are you just standing there? Get moving right now. Gi only felt a headache coming on as the situation slipped out of his control, so he ordered the servants to carry Danri Gong away for treatment while the others immediately set out for the Namong family. And as night fell, the large party arrived in grand procession before another inn where they decided to rest for the night and continue the journey tomorrow. Everyone ate and healed in the inn, while Bansu stayed in the stable with his horse, having discovered that his storage space held many new secrets since his battle with the gangs. He could pull things out of the space or push them in, but since his push wasn't very fast, most skilled fighters could react to it. Thinking about this, Bansu casually pinched a handful of sand and let it slip through his fingers. Then, right before it hit the ground, he opened his special storage space and trapped all of it inside. That strange thing instantly made Bansu wonder if there was another explanation. He immediately kept experimenting and swallowed the handful of sand from the hole, but the moment it hit his stomach, he stored it all back into his system space. This meant that whatever went into him would stay inside him forever. He created a fighting style all his own and called it the divine art of inventory space. But then Tang Wu's granddaughter showed up. Come with me, for my grandfather is searching for you. And under everyone's watchful eyes, she guided Bansu into Tang Wu's room. Tang Wu sat quietly in the center of the room, spoke directly to his mentor upon seeing him, and then climbed onto the bed to sit cross-legged. Bansu couldn't say no, so he walked straight over, sat down as told, and took off his robe, leaving Tang Wu clearly satisfied with what he saw. You look even stronger than I hoped, he said, pulling a wooden box from his robes, but the moment she saw it, her face went pale as she cried out, Grandfather, you're pulling out the Dragon Phoenix golden needles. You can't possibly mean to use them. Hang Wu placed the wooden box on the floor and turned to Bansu to ask if he had ever heard that a single tree can bear different kinds of fruit depending on where it grows. Sweet fruit grows in good soil, but bitter fruit grows in harsh ground. And just like that, a man's fate changes when you move him from one place to another. These golden dragon phoenix needles will let me fix you, but the pain will be so bad you might faint, and if you can take it, I'll heal your muteness and change you completely. So are you ready to take this huge risk? Hang Wu just took a quick look at his granddaughter before his face slowly lit up with a smile. Is that so? Then, child, are you ready? Take on the Tang name, for your life is about to change. And with these rare gifts like the heavenly meridian body and sacred bones, you will be famous in the Murum world from the very start. They are usually matched with titles like once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years, or even once in 10,000 years. But above them all lies a far greater possibility that Bansu picked up as easily as grabbing a stone. Compared to that, all those talents we just mentioned pale in comparison. So who could have guessed that a simple horsekeeper would hold a body of miracles never seen in the history of the Murum world? a legendary form without acupoints that lets Chukai carve its own path and, if trained right, even bring back the lost age of 100 years of blooming flowers, a time when the Tang family alone could make the whole world bow down. With the Tang family's fate now in his hands, Tang Wu couldn't help but smirk. I'll ask you again. Will you take the Tang name and join our clan forever? Banu stared at him with a serious look, then gave a small nod. Very good, so I will open your ren and do meridians first, leaving the granddaughter helpless and unable to stop her grandfather from sending her outside to guard, where she reluctantly stands with nothing to do but obey. Right now, every single golden needle from the Dragon Phoenix set has shot out of the wooden box. Tang Wu unleashed his real power, wrapped all the golden needles in Chukai's energy, and aimed every single one at Bansu. Get ready and start. And then he carefully slid the first golden needle into the top of Bansu's head. Everything changed completely from that moment on, but Tang Wu didn't realize that while he and his granddaughter thought their voice messages were secret, the man named Bansu had secretly used a hunting trick from his past life to read their lips, and he couldn't believe the strange body had somehow given him the ability to do that. Since things have gone too far to turn back, I'll team up with Tang Wu and play out this scene to the very end. Because this treasure is so valuable, no one else can ever have it. So I must plant a deadly Sichuan Tang family insect inside him that sleeps quietly and waits to kill him if I ever have to let him go. One night slipped by in a flash, and Tang Wu was finally done with his work. From now on, you are no longer working for the Danri family, but a proud member of the Tang sect, the most powerful family in Sichuan, and your new name is Tang Sam, a name Bansu spoke for the very first time after his voice returned and a cold smile slowly crept onto his lips. Once Bansu fixed his clothes, he shoved the door wide open and walked out. Hang Wu never guessed that the gooey bug he planted was instantly stored in the system space the moment it entered Bansu's body, so he angrily demanded, "You want to use that thing to control my life? Forget it, because from now on, the old Sawom of the Danri family is gone and replaced by the new Tang Sam of the Sichuan Tang Sak. This is where my journey into the Merm world begins." After traveling without stopping day or night, Bansu finally arrived at the end of his journey in a grand procession. I never expected to arrive early, and now that Bansu is dressed in fresh clothes, he watches in shock as the silent night near Anwei is suddenly torn apart by a shadow, causing a woman below to scream in terror while a black-robed man on the ceiling draws a sword, forcing a man with long hair to dodge the attack, quickly grab his own clothes from the floor, put them on in a flash, and then angrily curse a soiled garment instead of looking at the assassin. "These clothes cost a lot," the man in black demanded, staring silently until he whispered a secret spell that made black Chukai wrap around his sword. Then he thrust the blade right at the gray-haired man. "Since you won't speak, then I'll beat it out of you," he shouted as their attacks smashed together. And in that same breath, he weighed his opponent before swinging another long sword with a heavy, deadly slash. The man in black dodged and ran back, only to be told to stand his ground before a wall of sword light slammed toward him. Yet he stayed calm, tightened his blade's grip, and finally surprised the other fighter by matching his own style. Beneath the black Chukai shroud, the man in black's blade moved like a ghostly specter, instantly scattering the sword light and causing the gray-haired man's gaze to drop in full confirmation. The man with the wild hair suddenly burst out laughing, shouting, "That living killing sword is you, Mad Cloud. It's been 10 years, or to be exact, 9 years and 220 days. You're still that same stormy cloud, remembering even the tiniest details so clearly, so keep going. Someone worth one of the 18 clouds is making a personal trip, and I've arrived with my lord's command to carry out the first plan." Ash Shadow's breathing turned to gasps the moment he realized it was finally time to move. But where was that guy he needed to find at the Namong family for Shifting Shadow's wedding on the 15th? A wedding? You're kidding, right? If we don't admit Shifting Shadow is the cause, then what exactly is causing that deadly purge radius? Except for Shifting Shadow and Namong Hai, everyone else was killed without any exceptions. We just heard that Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand, is heading to Anwei soon, and with our forces here, I'm sure we can't stop him. It doesn't matter because when the time is right, 5 shadows will go there to hold him back. Is that right? Then we'll take it from here. Once Mad Cloud finished delivering the order and turned to go, Ash Shadow stopped him, and Mad Cloud suddenly remembered that he still didn't know what Shadow's real name was. Mad Cloud stared at him in shock before turning into a puddle of ink and disappearing without a sound. No matter if it's been years or just moments, that annoying side of you has never changed. Shifting Shadow is truly something to envy, even though I once believed that being a shadow meant dying all alone. He joined the righteous and is set to wed the most beautiful woman in Anwei, while I remain trapped in this freezing spot, slowly rotting away with all my feelings held deep inside. Ash Shadow flicked his fingers to snap, and an underling instantly popped into existence behind him to sweep the room while killing every guard, revealing that Ash Shadow was actually the boss of the Anwei branch of the Heavenly Demon Divine cult. He was called the Silver Lust Demon, a broken warrior named Ash Shadow whose blood had awakened the real story of the Merm world, just as the Namong family's big wedding turned the streets of Anhui into a festival. Everyone hurried to get the party ready, but when a hungry beggar begged for a single bite, the guard refused to show even a shred of kindness. "Get out of here, you filthy beggars!" the guard shouted as he kicked the pestering man flying across the yard, his loud commotion drawing onlookers from the residence until a passerby recognized the arrogant beggar as the star of today's banquet, Du Hyak, who then walked over to him. He reached out a gentle hand to comfort the beggar, then told the servants to leave food since they were days away from the wedding, before walking through the main gate where everyone knew the mighty and kind Du Hyak was exactly as the rumor said, explaining why the Namong family's young lady loves him so much after he defeated the Inyang twin demons all by himself, a feat that made even the most feared villains of the martial world look weak, leading to whispers that he might even have mastered the ancient Thunderblade Emperor technique. Just as he was talking, a stranger bumped right into him, and he instantly shouted, "You idiot! Can't you look where you're going?" But the moment he realized it was Tang Wu, the soul-chasing poison hand, his mouth went dry with sheer terror. Tang Wu grabbed the man by the face with one hand, then flipped him backward over his shoulder and shouted, "You worthless piece of trash, move aside." This spot was overflowing with junk, while a huge crowd strided proudly behind Tang Wu, marching down the street. Right in the middle of entertaining his guests, Du Hyak couldn't ignore the sudden noise erupting outside that pulled his focus away. "Everyone, come out here and greet me, for I've traveled far and Du Hyak has already arrived to welcome me. Hero Tang, hold your anger, I'm Du Hyak, and since you're the one who called me here, you'd better keep your cool. Not bad, but only that. If I'd met you years ago, this old man might have been interested, but now it's too late as my standards have risen." So he strode into the grand hall and Du Hyak hurried after him to Hero Tang, who promised to take him straight to the Imperial Hall. Bansu froze in his tracks when he stared at this strange face, feeling a deep sense of familiarity wash over him. A system warning shouts that a monster far stronger than you has crept close enough to hurt you. Staring at the system prompt, Bansu instantly recognized the man in front of him as someone with immense power. He was so strong that even the current Bansu couldn't fight him. While most people have some kind of physical flaw, this guy was strangely perfect. Bansu noticed the same strange smell on him, realizing he had found a clever new way to hide his body. Just like Bansu, this man was a predator, and the scene moved to the vast imperial hall of the Namong family, where a row of treasured swords stood on the roof, each one belonging to a past family head, serving as a reminder that even the greatest rulers must one day die. In just a few more years, the world will have completely forgotten them. As Tang Wu climbed the steps, sighing at how time was so cruel, he saw the old head of the Namong family and the bride-to-be waiting for him inside. Granddaughter of Tang Wu was surprised to see her grandfather so friendly with the head of the Namong family, who had just been ignored by the uncle. "Aren't you Tang Hua? It's been ages since we last met. Elder sister Hai looks even more beautiful now." Du Hyak stepped over to join us, quickly apologizing for forgetting to say hello properly before introducing himself with a warm smile. "I'm Tang Hua, so does that make you my brother-in-law?" Namong Hai froze in embarrassment, completely lost for what to do, when she suddenly realized a stranger was still standing in the hall. "Tang Hua? Who is that guy?" "It's Tang Sam." As several people looked on, Bansu stepped forward with a smile. Unexpectedly, Du Hyak was the first to step forward and say, "So you're Tang Sam, right? I'm really glad to meet you." Bansu could feel just how dangerous the other man was, but in a place like this, he still had to act polite. "By the way, tonight I'm planning a night cruise on the little lake with Nam Gong Hai. Would you like to join us?" "Absolutely. Thanks, Sam, and thanks to you too." Not long after, Du Hyak guided the group onto a boat on the lake, and for Tang Hua, who was seeing the view for the very first time, the excitement was so strong she couldn't keep her hands still. After all, this lake was already famous for its breathtaking scenery, especially under the night sky, a beauty rarely seen anywhere else in the world. While Namong Hai and Tang Hua chatted about the view and the men decided to grab a drink, Du Hyak secretly took Bansu aside, hiding his true nature as a predator beneath the smile of a future son-in-law. "I know plenty of folks just like that, and he must be hatching a big plan, so the only things left to figure out are when and where it will happen." Bansu had a strange feeling that he was being pulled into a massive, unseen secret plot. A warning sounds. A foe 10 levels stronger than you has stepped into your 20-meter circle. Hyak didn't cause it the moment he stepped into the cabin. Bansu tracked the second expert down to the lower deck beneath the boat, revealing another enemy hiding with Du Hyak, but his own sudden excuse about feeling too unwell to drink any of his favorite liquor allowed him to slip away quietly toward his cabin. Bansu's strange actions made Du Hyak start to wonder if he was up to something. And there stood Bansu right at the cabin door. A warning sounds out. A foe more than 10 levels stronger than you has crept into range, and is now just 11 meters away. As Bansu stepped into the cabin, the enemy kept getting closer until he was right beneath his feet, allowing him to lock onto 4 targets and then 5 when Du Hyak joined the fight. At least 5 foes, each 10 levels stronger than me, are waiting for me right here on the ship. If they really meant to snatch Namong Hai, they would have done it by now. Since they haven't found anyone else, their target is almost certainly the whole Namong family, and even though the system hints there are over 10 levels above me, I can't tell if it's 20 or 30. The mere thought of people at this level sneaking into the Namong family is enough to spark a disaster, especially since Tang Wu stands beside me, ensuring I don't escape easily, while a group of powerful enemies lurks in the darkness ahead. Right now, I'm stuck with no way to move forward or back. I'm stuck trying to figure out what I should pick. The scene changed to show the Namong family's guard unit moving through the area with tight, careful steps. A group of guards rushed to the mouth of the waterway. Captain Gosengong, are we absolutely sure we need to step inside? Even though the captain's face turned dark and he shouted at you, you're still right in the middle of a wedding that's just ahead. If anything really happens, none of us can bear the responsibility, he said, then grabbed the man and hurled him straight into the waterway entrance, forcing the others to light their candles and slowly step inside while holding their breath. Captain Gasong hung out at the door, passing the time in a dull wait. How boring. It would be nice if an enemy actually showed up, but right now it's pitch black and we're just stumbling along by the tiny candle's glow, which makes it even grimmer knowing everyone else is outside eating and drinking while we suffer in this hellhole. Until suddenly Bansu pops up and casually snuffs out the candle with a breath, leaving us in the dark waterway like sheep waiting to be slaughtered as the sounds of blood sprays and shrill screams tangle together before cutting off. Abruptly, only to erupt again seconds later, followed by hurried splashing footsteps and a flash of sword light before the waterway slips back into deathly darkness. While outside the door, Captain Gosling grows more and more impatient, wondering what the hell is going on since you've been in there this long and still aren't coming out. If I catch you slacking off, just you wait. But the moment he went deeper into the waterway, he saw a severed arm floating on the surface. He knew it instantly, that belonged to his friend's arm. Captain Gosengong was so horrified he spun around and ran in place until he spotted a faint light ahead, only to find an even more terrifying scene where a missing arm and torn-apart guards made him tremble with rage before he charged Bansu with his sword raised. After only a few words, Bansu knew he had made a big mistake because this patrol captain was much stronger than he thought. Didn't you arrive with Tang Wu? You're just a guest, so why are you getting involved in this mess? After 2 long seconds of quiet, Bansu spoke something so unbelievable that even he didn't trust his own words. I can't stop because I'm doing this for your Namong family, too. The instant those words left his lips, Captain Gosling flew into a rage, screaming that you were a madman who played with his dead men's bodies like toys, and that he would tear you apart slice by slice until his fury was finally sated. Alright friends, thanks for hanging out and watching this video. So if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button to catch all the cool stuff coming up, and we'll see you in the next one.